Are you sure you're not naked? You want to go live? Oh, we're live. I just said that.
We're live. Are you sure?
All right. Well, I don't see anybody in the chat other than us. Oh, wait, there. Oh, that's you.
Sure you're not naked?
Oh,
You want to go live?
Did you hear that?
There we are.
There we are.
Yeah,
So it
we'll
looks like
give
it's
it a
just
minute.
us anyway. Oh, there's Sue. Hi, Sue.
Hello, hello. Yeah, I think I crossed 100 people like the first couple days in January. So
Oh, congratulations.
thank you. So yeah, I have a little baby channel, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's good.
But I do keep like randomly going live just when I have
When
the
you have time.
opportunity to. And like I've had 1, 3, 5 people show up. So, I'll give it a minute. And I think,
Yeah.
and there's Chris.
Hi, Chris. I'm waiting to see if
So-
Jonathan comes because I know he's interested in Lenormand.
Yeah. Yeah, he should definitely do that first before
Absolutely.
his Thoth deep dive.
Thoth. Ugh, Thoth.
Hello, Sue. I'm opening my regular size 18 now to show Chris too. I opened the mini the other day.
Mine's right in front of me.
Oh, see? Yeah. He wants that, so we have to show it off.
Oh yeah, here's my mini.
Or he's thinking about it, I think.
My mommy and my baby.
Perfect. I love the set. I have to have them. Hello, Regina.
I do too. Hi, Regina. Yeah, I have now, like Chris Yao, every deck he has to get a regular size and a mini. And I don't do that all with every deck, but I do it with the ones that I really use a lot. I make sure I have both.
I am kind of bad about that. Like if they have both, I get both. So far, that has been the case. I believe.
Yeah. Hi, Jackie. My other one, and look at this great pouch. So, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name. She's the tarot keeper on Etsy, but Colleen McKellen, I think is her last name. I'll have to look it up, but she has an Etsy shop and she made this pouch, and this is perfect for. I keep my Madame Moreau, and I've got my plastic, and I've got my big one and look, it's got like 2 little pouches, so I can keep my big one and my little one. And that's and they're plastic. I got these in plastic so that I could take them everywhere, and it would be durable.
Yeah, I have some Labyrinthos plastic Lenormand. So, we've been in for a minute or two.
Hi, Richard. Longman Tarot's here.
Hello. So yeah, do we want to give it a minute or should we just jump in?
Let's jump in. Oh, hi, Debbie. Aquarius Al's here too. Let's go. We got
Debbie. Perfect.
A good 5 or 6 people here now. So
solid. Works for me.
Let's go. So what do you want to talk about? Let's talk about Lenormand.
So basically, I think we're just going to kind of have a little casual Lenormand chat and maybe answer some questions or just kind of give like a framework of why Mendy and I love this system and why we use it and why it's not a versus tarot, but just an added thing.
Right.
And I kind of think I had, a cohesive thought this morning about, because I was laughing the other day when Robin held up the, I don't know if it's, I think I have the book, but not the deck. He showed a card and I think it was the stork and it had like this little black baby in a cup on the roof.
Right.
And the way he said it, which is it's a pretty different depiction of that card in many ways because there was just kind of a lot going on. But the way he described that, I was cracking up. And then I wanted him to like do a series about symbolism in cards that he wasn't crazy about because I just thought that would be great. But my point is, he's like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What are all these things in it? And it's really not about what that is, right? What the symbolism is. Like Kelly Fitzgerald would say, for the house card, a house is a house is a house. So it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what color the roof is, or if there's a person standing outside. those are all fine things to enjoy about the card, but it doesn't mean anything else, right?
Yes, I agree
Where
100%.
yeah, whereas in tarot, we might see, oh, there's religious symbolism in this judgment card, or there's not in this one, or there's the red banner of life in the sun card, and there's not in this one. Like those are all kind of, feeding into those card meanings. But for Lenormand, it's just like, yes, you can enjoy all the different artwork styles, but it doesn't mean anything different.
Right.
And then getting to my, you know, the thought I had that I was pretty proud of, that it was like, for me, Lenormand is more like casting than card reading in a way, because it's about where everything falls. And in tarot, of course, we have spreads. Sometimes some people use them, some don't. So that makes a difference of, well, here's my past position and here's the card in the past. But for Lenormand, everything, whether you're using houses or not, the placement matters. So it's really just kind of like throwing them down, and however they land, that's where the meaning comes. So
Yeah,
I think
that's
if tarot lovers want to get into Lenormand, getting that kind of mindset is probably going to help.
I would agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I've got to address something. Chris said, you want Robin to do a series where he complains about
Yes.
symbolism in cards. He
Yes,
would
I do.
enjoy that. That is like such a Robin thing. Like that would be
Yes.
the perfect series for Robin.
I really want it to happen. It just symbolism in any cards, any system, just anything he
Yeah,
comes across that he thinks, what in the world is this? I would love to hear him talk about that.
I think that's right up his alley.
Yeah.
Um, and I agree with you overall, 100%. Except there are a few things that I've
Yeah.
started picking up on with Lenormand. Like, for example, the clouds. The
Yes.
clouds actually, what's in the card does matter based on which side's dark and which side's light. So I
Yes.
think, right, so that can be a little bit confusing in that saying, well, it doesn't matter what's in it's, it's not about the symbolism, it's about the card, and then saying, except this card.
Right.
And also directional. Like I've noticed in watching people read, a lot of people read the directionality of the people,
Yep.
the man and the woman. And I've started reading that way too.
Yep.
So it's like there's nuances to it that isn't just, hey, Robin, you came in at the perfect time.
Yes.
Um, it isn't just, I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it, right? So, like,
No,
what you say is a
totally.
great way to start. It's
Right. That's
a great
exactly it.
mindset. Mindset's the
Just
perfect
way
word for
back.
it. Right.
Yes.
Way back, look at it. Look at a position is number one. Position is the number one thing that you need to
Yes.
worry about. But there are also are some nuances that make it deeper. So, like you mentioned that you do tarot like readings with Lenormand. You will answer tarot like questions with Lenormand.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important that people realize that it's not just about where are my keys. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
it
Yeah.
can be very deep readings with Lenormand.
Yes. Very much so. And I agree with that. And it's just that idea about it, and I'm going to repeat it since Robin's here now, because trying just from the little bit that he has referenced where I think his super tarot brain is coming from, I thought, oh, it would help to think of Lenormand like a grand tableau as casting and about where the things fall. But I totally agree that things like the clouds, which side's dark and light, and the facings of the people.
Mhm.
And there's something else. Oh, the scythe. Like, is
Yes.
there, which way is the sharp end and which way is the handle, right? What's being cut away and what's being
Yeah.
harvested. So there are little intricacies in that. And things like, where are my keys? Like, that's fine. And I love those. I'm going to call them like kitschy ways to
Right.
use Lenormand, but that's not to say you can't do that. That's great. But I tend to use them for, deep spiritual things, just like I do with tarot. And
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the comment I made the other day is like, Lenormand is so great for a multifaceted situation. Or if someone is like really overwhelmed and they're like, I am curious about my job and my relationship and my studies and my personal
Yes.
growth, all of those things, if you're doing a grand tableau, those are all there.
Yes.
All of
Yes.
the cards are there, and you see what's around it. So if there's
Yes.
any, if someone comes to me with a list, then I'm like, okay, we're going to do this thing called Lenormand instead. And then I kind of break it down that way, because all of those questions are answered on the table.
Yeah, I feel like Lenormand is almost the better system for when people want just a general read.
Yes.
Because you can do a grand tableau and you can say, this is what I see going on with a relationship. This is what I see going on with work. This is what I see going on in your home life and so forth. So it's like you can cover all aspects or all major aspects in life with all 36 cards at a glance almost.
Yes.
And then
It's
narrow
all
in
shows up.
on the areas where they have more questions, and then maybe bring tarot. Hi, Jilly. I didn't see Jilly jump in.
So I'm typing back to Robin, but I'm going to stop and clarify. So no, Robin, not at all. What had happened
No.
was your commentary about, now see, this is proving your point, because I don't have the deck that you showed, but it was either the house or the stork. I think there was a stork on top of the house, and there was a little baby in a cup. And so when you held that card up and you said, there's this little baby in a cup on the roof with a stork, and that was hilarious to me and absolutely right on, because I thought, what is going on in this card? You can't tell what's going
Right.
on, even from the Lenormand perspective, right? And
Right.
and I have busy Lenormand decks, and I know what they mean because I've used them a lot. And like the fairy tale Lenormand people talk about a lot has a lot going on. I just know what it is, so it's fine now. But
Yeah.
what I had said, Robin, was I laughed so hard when you said that it made me want you to do a series about basically just, taking apart symbolism on cards that you didn't think were, making
Yeah,
sense.
kind of like a critical look at the
Yeah.
not critical in means of you criticizing, but more of like
Right.
a more academically critical
It
look.
was very funny. It could be called, like, I don't remember what he said right at the very end, like, what is going on here or something. Like, the series could be called What is Going On Here, and you could just
Yeah,
show
that would
cards that don't really make sense to you. I just thought it was great.
that would
So,
be a fantastic series.
yeah, sorry, Chris, didn't mean to call you out. I just thought it was hilarious.
And I
So,
just real quick before you jump on, because not
sure.
everybody may on here may be familiar. So I just wanted to show when we were talking about like the cloud, like there's the cloud because I had the 1889 in front of me. You can
Yep.
see in most Lenormand decks, traditional Lenormand decks at least, the cloud usually has like a dark side and a light side.
Mhm.
And that can play into your reading. Whereas a cloud may mean that things are unclear or there's confusion or misfortune coming depending on which side of the cloud is closest to the significator
Yes.
card, it changes the way you would read the cloud. So just wanted to,
Yes.
because I realized not everybody in the chat may or may not. I don't know if people in the chat could chime in and say how many of you are familiar with Lenormand or not. So we
Yeah.
know how much
The
detail to give. The
Yeah.
card
So
coalition complains about cards. My nose is so itchy. I can't stop scratching it. I don't know why. Sorry.
that's okay. It probably means something.
Probably. Oh, hi, Jonathan.
Hello, hello. And I think someone else, oh, Jilly popped in and I didn't say hi. So hello.
Yeah, I saw her say something about buffering, I think.
Oh my. Okay.
Oh, she
So
was buffering. Crazy. Okay.
so yeah, it is, that concept basically of, the tree is the tree is the tree, no matter what
Mhm.
kind of art and stuff is going on at the basis of it. But then, as Mendy said, there's a lot of, there are little intricacies that pop up. And the readings, because the cards are always the same, I think some, you know, tarot people think, oh, well, that's too flat for me, or that's too
Simplistic.
right.
Yeah.
But when it's this whole map, like that's where all the depth of that reading comes in, right? It's just this big web. And for me, I loved that anyway, and that kind of placement. And, we're moving, maybe certain ways to read are moving past to future as you go across the
Mhm.
tableau. There are all these different lines to follow, the four corners, the first three cards. So there's all these pathways sort of that you add on to it. So that's sort of what made me fall in love with it even more.
Yeah.
And there's just all these cool little codes, like you can like do knighting, right? And
Mhm.
that's, won't get super detailed into it, but it's, or you can trace back, I can't think what it's called. But like you find the rider and then you find
It's chaining.
chaining. Oh, yeah. And
Chaining, right.
there's all these cool little things that you can do. And so after you do the basic grand tableau, which is just beautiful and in depth as it is, then you can go back if someone says, okay, the key thing I really want to know is this relationship question or whatever. So then you can do chaining, you can start with the partner, the significator's partner card in the grand tableau, and you trace it back, and that gives you another theme to follow. So there's
Right.
just really cool nerdy stuff that I
Yeah.
love about it.
Yeah. I think what you said really is what keyed in for me too, is that it's very systematic.
Hmm.
I like systems, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not like I have a hard time with Oracle decks that are just kind of nice little sayings on cards
Right.
because I just don't I have a hard time reading that, but I love systems. Like I love the system of tarot. And
Yep.
Lenormand is like a system on steroids. Like
Yes.
it has all of these layers and avenues, and you can do, you do a grand tableau and you have the houses laid out in order, then you put the cards on top of that, and then you can see how the cards relate to each other, how they relate to the houses they're in.
Yes.
When you do the chaining that you were talking about, you look at what house they're in and then go to that card, go back and forth between houses and cards.
Yeah.
It's very much a very in-depth system, and I love that about it.
Yeah.
But it can be very, very simple, like laying down 3 or 5 cards.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a grand tableau. It can just
Right.
be a simple 5 cards, and you just make a sentence out of those 5 cards, which makes it
Right.
very concise and simplistic.
Yep. It can be a very direct thing or this
Yes.
big like scavenger hunt of kind of tracing everything through. So that's another reason I love it. I can sit down with it for an hour, or if
Right.
what I call the max factor is happening, then my wild son, he's very sweet. I shouldn't say that. But we partially named him after Max from Where the Wild Things Are. So he's aptly named.
Oh.
So if I have the max factor happening, then I'm not going to be sitting down scavenging through a grand tableau. But that's again why I love it, because it's versatile in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jonathan says a 9-card grid is cool. Yeah, a 9-card,
Yeah.
probably 9-card is my go-to way of reading
Yep.
Lenormand. I probably do a 9-card more than anything else. And then
You know what? I maybe it's close between that and a grand tableau, but I think that might be the same for me.
yeah, I do grand tableaus, but I've got to sit down and think I'm going to do a whole tableau and plan to spend time on it.
Right. That's my ideal. If I
Yeah.
could have a day, I would be in here just laying out one after the other for however many
Yeah.
people I could think of to gift bomb a Lenormand reading to.
Yeah.
So,
That's true, Sue, is the book open or close. That's another way that
yep.
you can get some nuances out of that card.
Yeah, there are a couple like that, and I just
Yeah,
can't think right now because
I'd
it's
have
not
to
in front
flip
of me.
right.
Yeah, but that's very, very true. So yeah, there are those little, where the symbolism does matter. One that I want to show. So what I'm flipping through here is my Kelly Fitzgerald's her guidebook for Story and Color Lenormand that I had printed on Lulu, and this is kind of my go-to for all things Lenormand. And I have her. So we're talking a little bit about. Here's my Moonlit Fae bags I can show off.
Oh, cute.
So I have her regular and mini too. So the reason that there are regular and mini Lenormands is, the reason that there are those, because we have mini tarot decks, right? And some people maybe use those for layering, which I do, or some people maybe just like a smaller size. So for Lenormand, though, it could be your preference, but the main function of it is so that you can have what are called houses that go behind. and then your reading cards go on top. So that's a point to make too. And
Right.
some people feel you don't have to use houses, which basically are just like spread placement cards.
Yes. And
Some
we were
people
just,
feel like, wow, that's a lot of cards to have on the table, but for me it helped.
yeah. So this, we were just talking about this before we went live. So this is like a reading cloth for Lenormand. I just got this one in, and it has all the houses mapped out. So I can just lay one card. Or like Dan was saying, you can put down the regular sized deck,
Yeah.
put down a regular sized bridge or poker sized deck in the correct order, 1 through 36, and then lay the minis on top to create basically a reading, like simulate a spread cloth.
Yeah, so here's Kelly's stork with the sun card on top,
Mhm.
and you'll notice that these look very different because this is which may or may not be great for you if you're thinking about getting into Lenormand, because I think, again, I'm going to pick on Robin a little bit. I'm just assuming I'm picking his brain, because if the symbolism of like, you know, the rider, like this dude on a
Right.
bike and the pine trees and the foggy day and his pinstripe coat, if that's all going to be kind of fighting for your attention, then maybe something like this would help. So just for anyone who might want that. But let me explain that these are just Kelly basically explains it as she wanted to take the essence of the card and express it in a color. So for
Mhm.
her, this is like the simplest color expression of the sun, right? And this is the rider, or I'm sorry, the stork. So we
Mhm.
have it says the word on it, it has the number, it has the little playing card association down in the corner. That's another thing you can use or not use. So there are different options.
Yeah.
And I think this deck is so cool because it kind of, if you're in just more of like this kind of abstract, mindset, then that's when I use my Kelly decks.
Yeah. I'm kind of like on the fence with her with the story in color Lenormand.
Hmm.
I really like the concept. And I think like when I took her class, because I took her Lenormand class to learn how to read
Yeah.
Lenormand. And, she suggested taking just a deck of playing cards and taking out, I think, one or ace through, I forget, or so the numbers that aren't on the Lenormand, and then just writing the words so that you don't even have a picture
Right.
on there. And that's where her, like you said, her deck comes in. There's nothing distracting because I think for tarot readers, it's difficult to make that shift
Right.
from reading all the symbolism you see in the card and reading intuitively
Yep.
to reading basic function of the cards
Right.
without worrying about the picture. So that's what, like you said, where hers comes in. But I'm really drawn to the traditional decks.
Hmm.
So I like her card, and I will use her deck. I only have the large one, and I will use her deck, like you said, laying them out to be my houses,
Yep.
and then put a different deck. Oftentimes, my 1889 mini or my regular Game of Hope mini,
Yep.
just to get the more traditional, because I've got a standard Game of Hope, which is very simplistic. This
Yep.
is a bear, and that's a bear.
Yep.
And I will use those on top of hers because I like having, I'm drawn to the
Right.
really historic decks.
And I kind of think people would know, like, if the, color and story is going to be something like, oh, I think that's cool, or oh, that's probably really not going to work for me. But
Mhm.
there is that out there, and it kind of just,
Yeah.
um, otherwise, regular Lenormand cards are fine, and you just have to remember, for the most part, it's like casting charms, right? If I
Mhm.
have a bicycle charm, that means, one thing. It's just kind of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Richard is asking, can you recommend a good book to help a Lenormand newbie? And I would say,
I
is
would
it
say
called?
the Caitlin
Go ahead.
Matthews book. Is that what you
Hmm.
were going to say? Yeah, it's I don't have it in front of me either. It's the Is it just the Lenormand Oracle? Is that what it's called?
I
Lenormand
think
Oracle?
so. Yeah. And
But
I
it's by
was going to
Caitlin
talk.
Matthews.
Yes. That one is highly recommended. The one I have I love, I think is called The Essential Tarot. And is that the Ron and George book? So like the deck um
Okay. Oh yeah.
that Robin was showing, I don't have the deck, but I have the book. So that has been a good one for me as well. And then Mendy and I were talking before we started the live that she has Kelly's like her divination
Yes.
study book, and I have this guidebook that comes with her deck. So
Yeah.
this is what I use most, but I mean
Yeah. This is what I
it would
use.
work for any deck. I
And
do have that, Chris. I do.
I also I was looking at it. I had it on Kindle. Hold on, I'm on my iPad. Let me see if I can find it. Because I have Kindle, what is it called? Kindle Unlimited, and
Okay.
where you can download for free. So I just downloaded some and I started reading one. It's 7-Day Lenormand. Learn to read Lenormand cards this week. And it's by Andrea
Oh,
Green. And I haven't finished it yet, but it's interesting the way it's laid out because it does it's got one chapter a day, and then it gives you exercises, and it starts very simple. Like the first day, the exercise is just to go through and say the cards names out loud in order. Just start
yep.
learning their order.
Mm-hmm.
And flip through the cards. And I haven't done the exercises because I think I'm a little bit past that, but I find it engaging. And she also talks about the history of Lenormand and that it came from the original coffee ground cards in Germany, and
Yes.
some of the myths that came out of because Lenormand, I don't know who's in the chat who knows this, but Lenormand is named
Yes.
after Madame Lenormand, who was a fortune teller in France, but she had nothing to do with these cards.
Thank
She
you. Go ahead and tell it.
she read with playing cards, and I also think she is somebody I read somewhere where someone had a reading. I think it was Mary Kay Greer posted an article at one point of a letter that was found where someone who went to her and she read with an Nutella deck.
Yeah.
So she had nothing to do with these cards, but a German, I think was he a glassmaker or something? He had nothing to do with cards either, but he came up with this game, and then a
Yes.
publishing company took the game and put her name on it for marketing purposes.
Yes.
And then they also created instructions claiming that they were from Philippe Lenormand, who was her nephew or someone, and he didn't exist. Like he was a made up person.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find instructions for the game that are, I think they're called the Philippe instructions or something like that. And he didn't exist. And it's named after this fortune teller who had nothing to do with these cards. But what's interesting about it, I find, is that it was the first set of cards that the instructions actually told you to use for divination. Like it has a whole game, and I've played the game. I played the game in Kelly's class, and it was a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
in the instructions that came with the cards, it actually said, and you can have fun playing this, using these cards to tell fortunes,
Yes.
which that was fascinating to me.
Yes. So that is a very good telling of the brief history of Lenormand.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, just don't be thrown because the name actually really doesn't apply. So I put Jonathan's question up, but I'll show Chris a few of these. He was asking about
Oh,
Anatorians,
yeah, I have that one too. I didn't pull that one
Claire
out.
de Lune. And this is really beautiful. This was maybe like the second or third Lenormand deck I bought. Oh, you know what? It might have been
This
my first one. This is, I think, what made me jump into this, if I'm remembering now that I say that. I think it was my first one. So it's just really beautiful. She basically, here are the backs, and it's supposed to be like all of the images like cast in moonlight. So these do not have the playing card associations, which again, not you can use them or not, but it does have the Lenormand card number. So for the house, we have the 4 up here in the corner, and these are just really, really beautiful.
they are. They're very beautiful. Yes,
But
Diane. Jonathan already answered the question, but that is the Caitlin Matthews book, The Essential Lenormand,
oh,
that we couldn't
gotcha.
remember.
Yes, yes, thank you. And so now Jonathan's asking about Lenormand and Kipper. So I can give you just kind of a quarter of an answer because I don't use Kipper or there's Sibylla, right? Are those
Sibylla
sort of
too.
similar? So I don't use those, but just from the brief little bit that I've looked into, I believe they have more people in the
Yeah, I think
decks.
so.
And then they're kind of like like older traditional fortune telling decks, right? They just have um more people is one of the distinctions I can remember, and that there are just different symbols. I don't know anything about if what the system is or if they're read the same way that Lenormand cards are read, but just with different or additional symbols. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I can read to you and hear what Kelly says about Kipper, because
Oh,
I don't read
perfect.
Kipper and I don't read Sibylla either. But she says for Kipper is another 36 card German cartomancy system springing from the line of fortune telling style decks that came from playing card divination. While it is naturally associated with Lenormand, it is probably more closely associated with decks in the Gypsy fortune telling card tradition. The earliest deck was published in 1890 and comes with its own history of being printed in the wrong direction and has its own questionable legend. Um, just as tarot being touted from Egypt, and Madame Lenormand given the fabled creation of Lenormand. In Kipper, we have Frau Kipper as a famous cartomancer, supposed behind the system. So it's, and apparently during this time, the late 1800s, these like little fortune telling cards, and that was something else I read in that 7 Days to Learn Lenormand. She went into how there were so many. It was just, they were being produced and sold by everybody, all of these
Yeah.
different, and even Lenormand, there, I read this. Who did I read this from? Oh, from maybe Lenormand, Ryan Edwards. Is that his name that did
Yes.
Baby Lenormand? He
Yep.
wrote, he went up to 52 cards, I think. He had all the extra cards. And he
Yep.
said he did that because not all the Lenormand decks were the same. Like there were different cards that floated in and out or were added on by different
Yeah.
producers.
Yep.
So,
Yep,
he,
and I love that because that's the only one I have that's not a traditional. We were talking a little bit before too. Mendy's a fan of the more historical by and large, and
Mhm.
I like the more modern ones by and large. But I do have the Maybe Lenormand, which I love
I
because
love it.
it's just a catch-all. It includes all those things. You can use the 36, you can add on the extra stuff. It's
Yeah.
whatever. And for now, that's good enough for me. Those are the extra fortune telling cards that I need. I have
Yeah.
that and that's perfect.
Yeah, I have, and I just started reading with the extra cards with the Maybe Lenormand. I want to say I did it in November, maybe October, November. I started playing because before I separated those out and didn't use them. I just used the ones
Yeah.
that I knew 1 through 36. And then I started factoring in those cards and playing with them. And it was a lot of fun. And it actually brought a lot to the table.
Oh yeah, I bet. I bet. That would be cool just to kind of, treat as its own thing or just use as Lenormand in terms of, okay, how does this card affect this one and
Right.
use it in the same functional way? I could definitely see that being really awesome. Um, I keep meaning to do, I think I finally figured out how to do it like a better overhead situation. So one of the things I really want to do is show people maybe most one of the sacrilege mashups that I do, which is lay down the Mildred Payne pocket oracle as houses and then put Lenormand on those. So you can do whatever you want, but
Absolutely.
so I've done that before just to see what comes up, and it's just so cool.
I
So
would love to see that. I would love to see
yeah.
that. I don't have the Mildred Payne Pocket Oracle,
Oh my gosh.
but
That is the only deck I think that I have um 3 copies of or any additional
really.
copies of, but one of them's a different size. But then I had to get the one with the original backings that you put them together and it makes this big picture, and then I have
Mhm.
the second edition that has like all the same design on the back. So I'm a little bit obsessed with that deck, but um you
Oh,
know
Masha's here. Hi, Masha. I didn't see you sneak in. And Justin's here.
oh, Justin and Masha, I'm sorry, I am so distracted by
We're
this nerdy
talking about.
Lenormand talk. Is so exciting.
So I have a question for you because I think we both agreed on this in that chat too, and I'd like to hear your take on it. But
Yeah.
for me, Lenormand has changed the way I look at tarot, and I think you said the same thing that it's
Yeah.
changed the way you read tarot. So how did it change that for you?
So I think when I started going way back, when I started reading tarot, I did not really know what I was doing the correct way, like based off any book or anything like that, because what I had was the yellow box, Rider Waite Smith, with the little white book. And even then, the meanings in the book were way too restricted for me.
Mhm.
And I just thought, well, that can't be right. Right. I just made up the whole thing myself. And I mean, I would use those as like the seed of what that card means, right? But what I would do in laying them out was I would make a big rectangle, like a grand tableau,
Great
but
to
I
know.
didn't know really what that was. So then, and this would have been when I was probably like eighth or ninth grade, so around that time. And I was reading them. I had them out on my grandma's table, and she said something about like, oh, something about similar to solitaire. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so she's like, yeah, your Aunt Irene, which is really was her sister-in-law. Um, she goes, she used to do what you're doing. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, well, you see us playing solitaire, but really, those hearts mean love. And she just would like say like this weird stuff and then just be on her way doing whatever. And I'm like, what is she talking about? So then, she was talking about her playing cards and playing solitaire, and that those cards had other meanings, right? So that
Right.
so that spark happened way back when. And so then um when I was reading, I'm like, oh, maybe she's right. It looks like solitaire, like a bunch of cards on the table. But I basically would read them like a Romney spread, which is 21
Mhm.
cards. So that's how I started reading tarot. But again, I didn't know what that was at the time. So then when I saw someone talking about the Kawaii tarot and it had one of those big Romney spreads in the back, or Romani, um, it just like this huge like fusion happened of those things. So then fast forward to I learned about Lenormand on Kelly's channel. And then it just was kind of like fusing all these things together about how I used to read when I started. And then when I got back into tarot, 8 years ago or whatever it was, I read very differently than those big spreads. I would do a
Mhm.
daily draw, or I would do
Right.
three, but then learned about Lenormand and putting all that together. Then it made me want to get back into the bigger spreads again and kind of connecting all these pathways. So for me, to finally answer the question, is that it changed the way I read tarot, um, mostly in like a big outcome way, how I
Okay.
was going about it. And I wanted to draw more out of it in a different way. Like I could draw, I could talk to someone for an hour and a half about a 10 card Celtic cross, which I used to do a lot when I was reading in person. So I can draw, I am, a person who loves that rich symbolism. And I say, oh, I chose this deck, for a certain reason. And this little, emphasis in this card here really makes sense for your story. And I think this is leading us here. So really the way it changed it was it enriched it even more for me, and it
Mhm.
reminds me, like when I'm reading tarot, I think about Lenormand stuff, and when I'm reading Lenormand, I think about tarot stuff, which is dangerous for me to say. If you're learning, don't do that.
Right, don't do that.
But once you get down the road a little bit,
Right.
then the way you are describing solutions for people or suggestions for people, it's all just kind of, for me, part of the same big pot. So I don't know if that answered your question. It was really rambly, but it's a
Yeah, no,
long.
no. No, no, that made sense to me. Yeah, for me, it was more about the way the cards interact. Like when
Yeah.
prior to studying Lenormand, and I guess I was headed that way when I started doing when I started looking and reading Tarot de Marseille. But, I started with RWS and it was the
Mhm.
same. It was like a card a day or 3 cards, but it was still read. Even my 3 card draws were read 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
However, right, they didn't seem to interact
Right.
much.
Mhm.
This means this means this, and this means this. And
Right.
even in a Celtic cross, I was doing it based on the position it was in, but
Right.
they weren't interacting.
Right.
But then when I did the Lenormand, and I really had no intentions of learning Lenormand, it was just a fluke that I took the class because I just started reading Lenormand back early last year when Gelly did our class. And it was
Okay.
just a quarantine boredom thing that I decided to jump into this class. And it was like all of a sudden a light bulb went off. And like I said, I was starting to go down that path with all the reading that I was doing about Tarot de Marseille and how the cards, they change meanings based on the cards they're with
Okay.
and what's for them and what's behind them. But it all really came together and the light bulb went off when I did the Lenormand class and seeing how you read the cards as a sentence, how they are, how they are combined with conjunctions, how, you look at a line of Lenormand cards and you see a subject and a verb and an out,
Yeah.
and an adjective, this modifies the
Right.
card in front of it.
Right. It
And that
makes
really,
you do that.
yes, it forces you to do that, which then you carry it over into tarot. And then when you see, I don't know what, like the 10 of swords next to death, you realize, well, everything's coming to an end. And
Right.
this whole, right, it's all over now. All
Right.
of your suffering, everything is over. It's
Yes.
come to an end because death now modifies the 10 of swords.
Yes. And that the Ten of Swords is begging for that death card.
Right,
And
right,
now it's everything,
right. And all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
yay, death. Thank God, death.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not
Exactly.
just, well, death is in the position, this is your present and this is your future. No,
Mhm.
they come together.
Yeah.
So to me, that was the biggest influence it had on tarot. And that just made me love Lenormand more. Being able to put down very simplistic cards with very simplistic meanings. And all of a sudden you can tell a whole story from 5 cards or a 9 card
Yeah.
square. That
Yeah.
was just
Yeah, and
what.
that's the other thing too. If you like, just like with me and tarot, I never felt overwhelmed by a Celtic cross. And because when I first started just on my own, I was using 21 cards. It never seemed overwhelming to me, but I can understand how it would for some people. So
Yeah.
if you're sitting here thinking, I cannot wrangle 36 cards on a table, think about even that 9 card square
Right.
that will give you so much. And then there's
Right.
building blocks. When you get it all together, you can read everything as like a 9 or a 6, right? They're these
Right.
little building blocks. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just know that you can start super small. You can make sentences like Mendy has been mentioning and just get really familiar with them that way. And then at some point just throw them all out on the table and see what
Mhm.
happens. It's just so fun
Yeah,
to find those connections.
Kelly even taught the grand tableau is reading in the square of 9. That you
Mhm.
start with, you look for the significator and then you just read the cards around and
Yeah.
then move from there. You
Yeah.
don't focus on all 36 at once. And when you start doing that and then you start hopping around using all these techniques, it becomes
Right.
fun.
Right. It
And
really is. And you'll be glad that you have 36 cards out.
right.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robin asked, do you see a correlation between Lenormand reading and open reading style of tarot? Yes, very much so. I very much do see a correlation between that because to me, especially with Tarot de Marseille and Lenormand, I read very similarly because, the card in the Tarot de Marseille, the meaning changes based on the cards that are around it, as
Mhm.
you would in an open reading style. And while I don't necessarily use spreads in Tarot de Marseille, I often use, a 9 card square in
Yep.
Tarot de Marseille and read it almost the same way, do mirroring and,
Yes.
it's all done very similarly. So yeah, I
Yeah.
do see it. I see a very big correlation.
So here's another thing I wanted to point out. A lot of times in Lenormand decks, you will get it's when Mendy was mentioning earlier the directionality or the facings of the people. Some Lenormand decks will have alternate cards for your significator. So
Mhm.
here's in Anatorian's deck, man card, and here's woman card, and these are just forward facing, right? And then she has alternates that are in profile. So then you could use these if you want
Right.
directionally more specifically, or you can leave in the forward facing people. So that's just an example of the alternates that come with some Lenormand. Um, there are different where's my cute little Lenormand that Elle cued me into? It's somewhere close by.
Yeah, I'm looking. So like in this is Alexander Danilov's, you'll see they're kind of forward facing, but they're looking in the same direction. And I think he did have I had alternate cards for him. Hold on. Yeah, I do. So then you have so if you have these, you can pick and choose. Do you want two men, two women? Which
Yep,
direction do you want them to face?
right.
I'm
Oh, and
holding
that's
this
the
here
other
awkwardly.
thing. Yeah, I was kind of getting there with looking for my cute little Lenormand. Oh, I found it. But yes, you can use same-sex significator and partner, seeker, querent, whatever um that other person is. So typically, if you are using, well, in Lenormand, there are going to be two people in your deck, the card for yourself or for the person you're reading and their partner in whatever that means. So there would be two, and you wouldn't probably want to use more than that unless you're just being crazy, making up your own rules, like you're having a Mildred Payne party and you want all the people in the deck. I don't know. But traditionally, that would be what you would do. You would have two people in your deck. And then, so here's like a super modern. This one's called The Cute Little Lenormand, and it looks like this. And this is the book. And let's just flip it open. I haven't really gotten, sorry, into this a whole lot, but it's a pretty detailed book. And then here are the images. So it does have the little playing card. Most of my decks don't have the playing card insert on them because it kind of makes me crazy that it's covering up artwork. So like the historical ones, I get it, and I'm probably going to get one just to get one, probably Game of Hope, but it
Game
just
of Hope has two
really,
cards.
like, it makes my eye twitch when the card is like right, it's so big and right in the middle of the picture. Oh yeah, look at that.
It has two playing cards. It
It's
has the
just
French and
terrible.
the German.
So I probably will get that because I want like the original one, but you can have alternates. So that was really like off-putting to me in the beginning, but I'm like, oh, I want to be obsessed with this, but I can't because those cards are in there. But then like I found Anatorian's deck and it was just nice and clean, right? So this is a good example of one that's, if you're looking for something more modern. And I wanted to show the significator cards in this one because we have, oh, I used it the other day after my random live. Oh, here we go. So
I
here we
agree.
have,
Masha says she needs playing card inserts. I do too. I think
yeah,
that's Masha's influence on me
and
is
I would
that she
totally, yeah, I would totally guess that for both of you. I feel like it goes so in line with the whole Marseille thing, and it makes total sense. And the good news is if I ever come across some super rare old Lenormand thing, and I can gift them to you too. And I will just, so we have the partner here, little jacket, and the querent. So I think it's kind of cool in Lenormand because there's only two people cards. Creators, especially now, it's pretty easy for them to make it friendly to everyone, right? It's easy to throw in a couple more people cards to give people like what they
yeah.
want. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and you usually have a child card too, but the child doesn't
Yes.
necessarily mean a child. In fact, usually it doesn't. But
Right.
it can mean a child. I guess it depends on where it lands and the um, context.
Yes. So here's the child in that deck. Super cute. Um, so Sue has asked, do either of you tend to take account of the playing card inserts too as you're reading? The answer is sometimes I do.
Sometimes.
Usually for in readings for myself. I don't usually get there when I'm doing readings for other people, especially if it's a grand tableau, because I pour out so much information that I don't really need to get into the playing card associations. But for myself, I will do that sometimes especially if I'm doing like a 5 card, like a sentence a day or something like that. I will take note of, oh, 6 spades keeps showing up and things like that. So
Yeah.
I do a little bit, but not as my primary.
Yeah, the more I learn playing card reading, the more I take note of the playing cards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked, who was it? Um, they asked about the golden gem. Barking Deer asked about the golden gem that you posted, and
Oh,
that is here. I've got the cards right here. These are the extra cards from the Green Glyphs
yes.
by James R. Eade, and this is one deck that we can both agree on is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And he sent these cards, these extra. Well, that's the extra.
Person.
Those right. These were the extra foiled cards, and then which I think now you can buy separately, right, from the Green
Yes.
Glyphs.
Yep.
And then he has an albatross in place of a cross. That's a extra card that he sends in case the cross is confusing, because some people get tied up in the
Mhm.
religious
Right.
significance of the cross, and really it means burden. So the
Right.
albatross is less religious, I guess.
Right.
And then he has some extra people. So that's um just says the person,
Mm-hmm.
and then the gentleman,
Yep.
and I think I have a gentleman and a lady in there, and he sends 2 gentlemen, 2 ladies, and 2 just the persons, so that you
Yeah.
can pick and choose how you want, how you want to um uh what am I saying? Represent people,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
client and their couple. But this is just a fantastic deck,
It really is.
and it's so simple, and his book is great that comes with this,
Mm-hmm.
because he gives really great instructions. He also gives instructions on how to play the game of hope,
Yep.
and the
Yeah. He does a nice
card
little intro in that too. It's really nice.
yeah, and the cards are somewhat color coded, because there are
Yes.
positive cards and negative cards in Lenormand, and James R. Eads handles that with colors in his
Mm-hmm.
deck to
Yep. And
show.
that is really cool. I feel like people who are I mean, we're all really into suits and tarot, right? Like, but I feel like if that kind of structure is really important for you to carry forward, something like that would be great because again, those colors, and again, depending on, what they're near. If the coffin is following a certain card or is followed by a certain card, it might be an ending of something you want to end, right? It might be a bad
Yeah.
thing coming to an end. So that is really nice though to have those colors, and when you lay it all out, you can see just kind of at a glance where the light is and where the dark is, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. It's fantastic, and I think this is a great learning deck, just because the pictures are so simple. You don't get
Yes.
lost. Oh, I just dropped the whole deck. You don't get lost in. I know. And there's your little house that
Yes,
you
my
love so
house.
much. You don't get lost in all of the extra stuff that people sometimes
Right.
put into the images.
Yeah. So that is if you're thinking about starting out and you want beautiful cards or a certain aesthetic but still simple, I think that's out there, right? So if you
Mhm.
want, something different than than the historical decks. Not to say that those aren't beautiful. Like, I
Right.
think it's cool. They look antique-y, but if you're really drawn into that art aspect, like that's what happened with me with the Anatorian deck. And it's beautiful and it's unique because it's like cast in moonlight, but it's by and large, it's still pretty simple with the
Yeah.
symbols. So it's, I think, here's my push. I think the perfect Lenormand deck is out there for you, person who is thinking about doing this. And it's just so fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Um, Robin asks, what's the difference in meaning between the cross and the coffin? So the coffin, well, let's see. Chris tried to answer. I didn't try. Chris did answer. Cross is burden and tasks, I think, Robin, whereas coffin is an ending. And that's right.
Yep.
That's the correct answer.
Yep.
I think of the coffin almost in line with the death card in tarot.
Yeah.
When it comes, it means that something's coming to an end. Whatever you've been
Yep.
reading is over.
Right. So if you have mountain and then you have coffin, then the coffin card is speaking to the mountain. That big obstacle that's in your way has come to an end. So,
Right.
yep. No, Chris, that's perfect.
That's the exact right answer, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So we've got, I think, 4 more minutes. We're going to keep this to an hour because I think Jilly's got another live after this. So,
yes.
What is your favorite Lenormand deck?
Oh, no.
Okay.
The favorite word.
The favorite word.
Oh, what is my favorite Lenormand? Oh my gosh, it's so hard. I don't know.
All right. So what is a favorite? Like, what would you show if somebody said, show me a really nice Lenormand deck? What's your most used, maybe? The one you reach for most often?
Oh my gosh, I use everything. I would say it's probably, like, I just got another slew of decks too, so that's why I'm hesitating.
Right.
Like my 1889 regular
Yeah,
mini, I've been waiting for
those
a
are.
long time, and I love that feeling. It kind of has that older feel, but it's not quite like a historic deck. But I would probably say it's a toss-up between Anatorian's Clair de Lune and the Green Glyphs if I had to just pick right now, because those are like all encompassing for me in their own ways.
Yeah.
I'd probably pick one of those.
Yeah, the Green Glyphs would be hands down my favorite if it was on different cardstock. That rose
Okay.
petal cardstock is difficult for me to use. In that size, I can and I do use it. But
Yeah.
if he brings that out in the new cardstock that he's making his tarot decks and his new Oracle deck in, I will
Oh
be
yeah.
all over that.
Right.
And yeah, that would hands down. But then for me too, it would be between my 1889 and I don't remember, did we show other than the clouds? I don't know if we showed any of that. But
Not
it's
really.
just,
Yeah, it's
it
really
does.
beautiful.
It feels old, but it's not.
Yes.
It's just gorgeous. And I love it. And I have the mini and the regular size too. And then my
Yeah.
other one would be probably Madame Moreau. And that's
Oh, okay.
Madame Moreau is probably my most used overall. And again, I just like the simplistic nature of the pictures.
Yeah, that one, see, I don't mind that one as much because the card isn't cutting into the things.
No, it's just,
That one's really, it's like,
yeah, you
it's
just have,
thinking about pushing me over into insanity, but it's not. It's not covering up the see, no, that one does it.
it's covering up a little bit, but it's nothing important. It's nothing that you,
I know. It just visually makes me
yeah. And it's
crazy.
just so
But no, that looks
simple.
really beautiful and simple and clean, and
Yeah.
that's
It's
great.
just, it's just very easy. And it's very easy to pick out and know exactly what the card is as soon as you see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I get hung up on the really ornate cards, the ones that have
Yeah.
such beautiful art. It's
Mhm.
like sometimes you're wondering, what is that? What
Yeah.
what is that supposed to be?
Right.
And so
Yeah, and like Justin's talking about gifting the fairy tale Lenormand, that's one of those decks, but it is beautiful and I use it for myself a lot because it's that kind of just like storybook, that whole kind of feeling. So yeah, I have a whole collection of from Labyrinthos, but maybe we'll do a Lenormand live again
Yeah.
sometime. But
I
we
have
just kind
been,
of wanted to, I don't know, talk about our basics and how we go about it
yeah,
and get
and
you
just,
excited.
yeah, see if we can get you excited about Lenormand, because I do. I keep meaning to do a Lenormand, because I've never done a video about my Lenormand decks, and I have a ton of them. I went
Yeah.
crazy when I was taking that class, and I ordered everything
Yeah.
and anything.
Yeah, I am thinking about taking Kelly's class this summer as well. I think I can make that work. So, and I saw other people sharing different class suggestions in the chat too. So that's great.
Mhm.
Um, we would love to have you on the Lenormand team as well as the tarot team. There's no team.
There's no team. It's all good. You can use them all, and you can use them all together.
Yes, that's another video.
Yeah, that
But
is.
but anyway, I might be able to pop in to Jilly's. I am gonna go tend to my husband and my son for a little bit. But thank you all so much for being here. And sorry we went right up. I was gonna try to give you a 5-minute break, but I'm too excited. So um, grab a snack and a drink and get over to Jilly's. And thank you all so much for hanging out with us.
Yes, and thanks for having me, Deanne. I loved it. We'll have to
Yes,
do it again. We should
yes,
do like a regular Lenormand thing.
yeah, we
Nobody
should
does
because
Lenormand.
we have a lot to talk about, I think.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you so much.
All right. And we'll talk to you all guys later.
Bye.